helped lead the OSID investigation. Also, Chief Mike Todd from the Olathe Police Department is here as well. The way we're going to go about doing this press conference is that first I'm going to make my announcement, and after my announcement we're going to go through a process of playing the 911 call, the body-worn cameras, as well as a diagram and a picture that will be presented to all of you. I'm going to pause here for a second to allow some of your peers to get ready. Okay, I'll go ahead and start over. We're here this afternoon to announce my findings on the officer-involved shooting that took place on December 31st of 2022. It is based on the investigation conducted by the Johnson County Officer-Involved Critical Incident Investigative Team, OSIT. They completed their investigation and submitted their findings to me. Based on those facts and application of Kansas law, it is my determination that the officer properly used deadly force in this incident and will not be facing any charges. Now, to help provide some transparency and clarity to the decision that I made in this case, we are going to play a portion of the 911 calls as well as a portion of the body-worn cameras to allow the public to understand the reasons for my decision. So we will begin with the 911 call, which is not the entire 911 call, but a portion of it.
(911), where is your emergency?
The 917 East Oakview Street.
All right, what's going on?
My brother just attacked me.
He just what?
He just attacked me. I'm bleeding in my mouth.
Okay, is he still there?
Yes.
Okay. Give me one moment, I'm getting help started that way. What's your brother's name?
Brandon Lynch. He's had constant problems. He's schizophrenic. He wouldn't stop punching me. I had to bite him.
I gotcha.
He kept punching me in the face.
I gotcha. Okay. All right. And where are you at right now in the home?
In my room.
Okay. And are you able to lock your door?
Yeah.
Okay. And is it just the two of you in the home?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now I am getting help started that way. All right, just stay on the line with me.
I'm changing.
And where is he at?
I don't know. He could be anywhere in the house.
All right. All right. And I'm sorry, what was his name one more time?
Brandon Lynch.
Brandon Lynch?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
He started just grabbing me in the hall and tossing me around and punching me. So I just had to start bumping at him because he's a lot bigger than me and stronger than me.
Gotcha. All right.
He bit me in the mouth. I'm bleeding a lot.
Would you like us to get an ambulance to you? Just to check you out?
I could be fine, but
That doesn't cost anything for them to check you out. Yeah. Now, you don't have to, but if you do change your mind, you can just let the officers know, and we can get one started to you. All right.
he is going on a rampage every day, saying how he wants to kill everyone in the house.
Gotcha.
Hello?
Yep, I'm still here with you.
Every day he's been doing this.
right. Now, do you normally live with other people in the house?
Yeah, my mom and her boyfriend, they're out right now.
Gotcha. All right. So I do have officers, they're at Northgate and Nelson, so they're pretty close, all right, but just stay in line with me, okay?
I have to get to the door, right?
Well, yeah, we'll get to that when they get there. But for now, I just want you to stay where you're safe.
Tiresome. Hey,
Right.
so you look at where we have Paige and how he's gonna kill everyone.
Does he have any weapons?
He could have a knife.
Okay.
I don't know.
I got
He
you.
also keeps a taser on him. He threatens everyone in the house with all the time.
Gotcha. And what was your first name?
Melissa.
Melissa?
Now I'm gonna play
911, where's your emergency?
a portion of the body camera.
Hello. You okay? No, do you want an ambulance to come check you out?
Should be fine. He's only in the mouse.
Okay, where's he at?
He's probably in his room at the bottom.
Okay. You just want to hang tight, they're out here in the living room, we'll try to talk to him real quick.
He's really messed up too because
Is he on
I'm trying to
anything?
defend it myself. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
His is to the left, right?
Yes.
We are with you now. Do you want to go ahead and start this way?
Get out, sir.
Brandon? Hey, police department, come out here.
Get out.
Hey,
Get out.
Let me see your hand.
Get out.
Let me see your
What
hand.
does get out mean?
Hey, come here.
I'm just trying to fucking clean up so I don't fucking start a new plane.
Okay, well, we
Get out.
need to sort out what's going on.
Get out.
Come here.
I'm not going anywhere near you.
Hey, come here. Hey,
Ouch. Ouch.
put that stun gun down. Put it down. Put the stun gun down.
Get out.
Put that stun gun down.
Get out.
Put the stun gun down. Come here, you're under arrest.
For doing what? Cleaning? For fucking cleaning?
Put it down. Put the knife down.
For fucking cleaning? I'm not doing a fucking single thing.
Put
you
the
said.
knife down.
Get out of my room. Get out of here.
Put that knife down.
Get out of my room. Get out of here.
Put it down. Put it down. Put it down.
Get out of my room. Get out. Get out of my room. Get out.
Taser.
Fucking do shit to me, bitch.
Whose car just hit him again? Put your weapons down.
Get out.
We got
Get
one.
out. You get out.
Put
I just tried
the
to
knife
clean.
down.
I just tried to clean.
Put the
Get
knife
out.
down.
Get out.
Put the knife. Put it down. Put it down.
You're gonna shoot me in the head right now. You talk.
Put it down. If you come towards me, I will shoot you. Taser.
I'm doing shit. I didn't. You get that hurt me, you little bitch.
Put the knife down.
Dude, stop!
I'm trying to fucking clean.
Brandon,
Get out this bitch.
If you take one step towards us, I will shoot you.
Dude, stop
Then
it!
get out of my house.
You need to drop your weapons and get down on the ground.
Then get out of my house. I didn't do anything.
Dude, you have to stop it!
She needs to get.
Brandon.
Let me clean.
Okay.
Peace.
Brandon, you're under arrest.
For doing what?
Drop your weapon. Resisting right now. Drop your weapons.
What arrest did I miss? What did I do? I didn't do anything. Get out of my house. Get out of my house.
For obvious reasons, we didn't show the rest of the video after the initial gunshot. This is a diagram of the house. It depicts where Brandon's body landed in the house. It also provides the measurements from inside the residence in that living room, the distance between the officers who are basically in the front doorway, and where Brandon was during that incident, which became highly relevant as you read my written response, highly relevant in the fact that he was in close proximity to the officers, and they felt threatened by the fact that he had this edged weapon. The last thing I'm going to provide you, and next to his body, the officers found this knife, a butterfly knife, as well as a taser that was then removed. The taser was on an on position, and both the knife and the taser, they not only seized it, but did a DNA test, and there was DNA of Brandon Lynch on both of those weapons. So that is our presentation on this. At this point, I know Chief Mike Todd would like to make a brief statement, and then after he's done, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. So, Chief.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. For the record, I'm Mike Todd. I'm the police chief for the Olathe Police Department. As always, being forced to take an action that causes the death of another is a tragic event that is never a desired outcome. Fortunately, it's a very rare one. My sincere condolences go out to Mr. Lynch's family, as well as my thoughts and concerns for ongoing recovery for our officers, their families, and our police department. All of us will be forever changed by this incident. I want to point out that our police officers are very prepared to assist people who are experiencing behavioral health crisis. That assistance happens several times every day in the city of Olathe. We are proud to be members of the International Association of Chiefs of Police One Mind campaign, which requires the following: establishing a clearly defined and sustainable partnership with one or more community health organizations, develop and implement a model policy addressing law enforcement response to individuals with mental health conditions, train and certify 100% of sworn officers in mental health response, and 100% of our officers, including myself, are trained in either crisis intervention training or mental health first aid. In 2011, the Olathe Police Department was the first law enforcement agency we're aware of in the entire Midwest to start working on a pilot program with licensed therapists specifically assigned and stationed within our police department. At that time, we formed a pioneering partnership with Johnson County Mental Health Co-Responders Program, and we're still proudly in operation today. By the end of 2020, the Olathe Police Department was again the first agency we're aware of in the entire Midwest to form a dedicated behavioral health unit of police officers that work specifically in partnership with our co-responders. Currently, we are one of only 2 law enforcement agencies in the Kansas City metro area that has a dedicated and fully functioning behavioral health unit comprised of 1 sergeant supervising 5 officers and 4 co-responders that are all licensed therapists. To date, our Behavioral Health Unit, ACT, which is the acronym for Advanced Crisis Intervention Team, along with our Johnson County Mental Health co-responders, have come to the aid of many thousands of people in need. Unfortunately, despite our best attempts, no police officer can ultimately control the decisions or the behaviors of people we contact. Even the best trained and best prepared departments can never fully guarantee this type of outcome will never happen. The video you just watched depicts a stressful and rapidly evolving incident that occurred in a short amount of time. Ultimately, our officers were justified in using deadly force when Mr. Lynch advanced towards our officers while armed with a knife and refusing to comply with his lawful arrest for domestic violence. I would like to thank the Johnson County law enforcement agencies that contributed very experienced detectives who completed a thorough investigation. These professional investigations conducted by the Johnson County Officer-Involved Critical Incident Investigation Team provides our district attorney with significant factual information so he can make an appropriately informed decision. I agree with District Attorney Steve Howe's assessment of this incident. Our officers' actions were legal, justified, and reasonable. Again, my sincere condolences go out to Mr. Lynch's family, as well as my thoughts and concerns of ongoing recovery for our officers, their families, and our police department. Thank you.
At this time, we'd be happy to try to answer as many questions as we can regarding this incident. So,
is there a reason that there was, or was there a mental health professional that was at the scene that night this happened?
well, from start to finish, when the officers arrived at the scene, it took 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes for this all to evolve. I will tell you that in talking to Tim DeWeese, who's the head of Johnson County Mental Health, a co-responder would not have been engaged into this situation even if they were at the scene. And the reason why is Tim is adamant that until the scene is secure and safe for his people, they will not engage with an individual. And as you saw from this videotape, it was not a controlled situation. There was an individual with a weapon, and in those situations, co-responders are not inserted into that situation for their health and well-being. And so even if we got one to the scene, based on our protocols that we worked on, that is not something where a co-responder would be engaging with him.
So those co-responders don't act in a way that helps to de-escalate a situation? They have to come in once that situation's already de-escalated?
They can. The difference is when an individual has a weapon and is a threat to not only the officers but anybody in the immediate area, they will not be involved in that situation for their own well-being. And so unfortunately, as the chief talked about, there are some instances where even if you have a co-responder on the scene, it's not going to change the dynamics of the situation. So unfortunately, for the health of everyone, that is the procedures and protocols that we all have in place. Unfortunately, Johnson County has its own history where a mental health worker was brutally killed because they got too close to the situation with a person who was violent and mentally ill. And so because of that, Tim is absolutely resolved about that is not a situation that you just saw where they would be involved in the front end of it trying to intervene, because that is the job of the law enforcement officers to calm the situation down, and then you insert the co-responder into that situation to help that individual.
Have there been any follow-ups in previous cases? Did you guys send a mental health expert to go check up on him after some of the other situations that have happened?
Well, I can tell you that unfortunately Mr. Lynch suffered from a serious mental illness that resulted in our office filing an involuntary commitment proceeding against him in 2022. And so he was under the mental health department's care, was released from an outpatient treatment order just a little bit over 30 days before this happened. And so we were well aware of it. And in fact, the officers that were involved in this incident had previous contact with Mr. Lynch. And the officer who was involved in the shooting actually had a physical altercation in a previous incident with Mr. Lynch. So he was well aware of the potential situation that was going on. And if you notice that the officers attempted non-lethal force on a couple of occasions, tried to use their words, tried to separate from him as he came at him in the house, and none of that was successful. And so that was part of my evaluation of this case, is that the officers tried to disengage, tried to separate so it was in a safe situation. And then when we got into the front living room, as you saw from the diagram, it was less than 15 feet between Mr. Lynch and the officers. And then he closed that ground, and based on our understanding of defense tactics given to law enforcement regarding sharp-edged weapons, that the standard rule is 21 feet, but it's not a set standard, but it's instrumental in educating the officers that once you start getting inside that 21-foot rule, it becomes more and more dangerous for them. Clearly the officers used restraint, because even though Mr. Lynch was clearly inside 21 feet, they used non-lethal means, and it wasn't until Mr. Lynch closed till about 10 feet that when the officer used deadly force. And we felt that the officers, based on all those facts and what the standard practices for law enforcement, it was reasonable for him to believe that his life was in danger and he needed to use deadly force. This is all based on force science, but it's not any different than all of us experience. I'll give you a good example. When you're driving in a car on the interstate and someone slams on their brakes in front of you, it takes a moment for your brain to tell your body that you need to brake, and then your foot goes down and brakes the vehicle. That delay, that process where your brain has to relay the information to the rest of your body, is the same science that we talk about when officers have that distance that they have to contemplate. Is he too close? And the studies have shown that if an individual, like on a flat surface like in this room, can close 21 feet in about 1.5 to 1.7 seconds. So the officers know that that is about the time it takes for most officers to be able to retrieve their firearm and then be able to pull the trigger. And so, that is because the officers go through that same analysis that we do on the highways, which is they have to perceive the threat, tell their body how to react, and then respond. And so for those delays and just basic force science, officers are trained that way. We did a lot of research on that to see what the best practices are out in the law enforcement community. And based on the science that's out there, it was very reasonable for this officer, based on the distance that Mr. Lynch was from him and approaching closer, that he was in threat of great bodily harm to himself, and that deadly force was necessary and also reasonable under Kansas law.
Are there any other different tactics that police officers use in between tasers and guns? Could there have been other options?
I'll let Chief Todd or the OSID officers talk about this as far as practices.
You know, I think we're here to talk about reasonableness today, and not really second guess what could have done or could have been used instead. I think the actions that they took were reasonable, and they did try less lethal options twice. You clearly saw that they retreated all the way up the flight of stairs as well. So I don't think that there was a whole lot of other options, to be honest with you.
And one of the things that we cited in our briefing sheet is the officer, when he was interviewed, said that they had felt like they had run out of options because they tried to use non-lethal force. They tried to back up and get away from them. And it's my opinion that it was reasonable for him to say, I was not going to let him outside that house where his sister, who had already been attacked, was standing, as well as the rest of the community. And so it was a reasonable effort on the officer's part. And to what the chief talked about, my job is not to do a hindsight's 20/20 analysis of could he have done something different. And in fact, the United States Supreme Court, in the case law that I cited to you, says that that's not a proper analysis under the law for us to apply to the officers, because there's always other options. That is not the test. Could he have done something else? The test is the steps he took on that day in question, was it reasonable based on all the facts? And that's the determination that I made today.
But isn't there some sort of, I guess, space where you have to think, not only do you have this history with this person, but you also have an officer that's had an interaction with him before. So do those things not factor into that officer's decision-making as far as de-escalation, as far as other options to produce a better outcome besides someone that you know is in crisis being killed? Because I think the question that people are going to be asking is, so you knew this guy had mental health problems going on, you guys had had conversations with him in the past, and there was no other way to deal with this situation but to end his life.
Well, first of all, Mr. Lynch took the actions that caused his death. The officers reacted to the aggressiveness of Mr. Lynch throughout that episode. So I would put it as the officers tried to de-escalate, tried to talk to him, tried to use non-lethal force, and they were aware of the situation, used all the facts to make their determination. And it's my decision today that that decision by the officers was reasonable based on all the facts. And again, we can't go back to woulda, coulda, shoulda, what are the other options available to him? That's not the test under Kansas law. The test is, was it reasonable for that officer to feel, as he was approaching within 10 feet, that his life was in jeopardy and that it was necessary to use deadly force? That's the standard that I applied. That's the standard under Kansas law, and that's all we can hold the officers responsible on based on our Kansas statutes.
Will the officers be returning to work soon? Because it's my understanding they were on administrative leave.
Yes, they will be.
What's their status? Okay.
Yeah. One of them is already at work, and one will be soon. Yes.
Chief, I guess the next question is, moving forward, will your department work to help not have this outcome next time when you know someone is in crisis? Is there different approaches that you guys are working on to avoid this situation in the future?
Well, like I said, we have a very robust behavioral health unit right now. We're working towards getting that to be 24 hours a day. Obviously, we are not quite there yet. I mean, I think the one thing that we're losing sight of is this just wasn't simply a mental health call. This was a violent act where he attacked his sister and was going to be arrested for domestic violence. So in a situation where somebody is simply there that's in crisis, you may be able to do something different. If there hasn't been a crime committed, you might be able to leave that person there, but that was not this situation. He committed a crime and was going to be arrested.
And I will say that our CIT training, as well as our co-responders, we have a lot of really good evidence that says that these co-responder programs like Olathe has prevented mentally ill people from being booked in our jails. And it's pretty substantial, the numbers that were diminished because of that. But despite these programs, we still ask our officers to protect other people. And in this case, they were there to protect his sister. And under the Kansas statutes, they had a right to arrest him for domestic violence. And I hope our country never gets to the point where we have to have our officers run away instead of running towards danger and trying to help people. Their job is to protect people. They were there to protect the sister. And unfortunately, because of a tragic set of circumstances, they ended up taking the life of Brandon Lynch. It was not because they sought this out, but they were called to the residence, as you saw from the 911 call, a desperate young lady who had been beaten by her brother, who was out of control and who had made threats over the course of the week. And so I think that it's incumbent upon what we ask our law enforcement to do is to protect those types of people who are in need. And I believe that's what they tried to do on that day.
Have you met with Brandon Lynch's family, and what was their reaction to your findings today?
I met with them this morning and explained my findings to them, answered any questions that they might have. Obviously, they're upset. They lost a loved one, and I expressed my condolences to them. Nobody wants to be involved in these situations where we have to see a situation where law enforcement takes the life of another person. There are always tragedies, and clearly Mr. Lynch was a disturbed individual, and you know, our case filings clearly show he assaulted his family on numerous occasions. And he's a troubled individual that the courts tried to intervene to try to help him and get him the help that he needed because of his mental illness. But not every situation comes out with a great end, and that's the unfortunate thing is we do have tragedies. But in this case, again, we go back to what the officers did. They were there for the right reasons. They were there to protect. They did everything they could, and I found in my report that they were reasonable in their efforts, did everything they could short of putting their own lives at risk. And so that's why the use of deadly force was justified. Any other questions?
Just for Attorney Howe mentioned diversion, and I just wanted to talk on that for a second. So in Olathe, we had about 3,000 calls involving people in crisis in 2022. Our ACT unit dealt with about 900 of those incidences, and we diverted 54 people who would have typically gone to the detention center otherwise and found help for them. The one thing that I can tell you is that if you want more stats about our ACT unit, you can contact our PIO and we can provide that to you later.
And I appreciate all our law enforcement in Johnson County. I think we sometimes take for granted our co-responder program, our CIT programs, just all the efforts that Johnson County law enforcement in its coordination with Johnson County Mental Health in an effort to keep mentally ill people out of jail, keep them from harming themselves and harming others. If you look across this country, Johnson County is a leader in this. We have been deemed an innovator county throughout the country by the National Association of Counties. And so I'm very proud of the work that we do to try to avoid these situations. But again, not every, it's just over a course of time, you're going to have some tragic events and you can't prevent all of these situations. And the bottom line is law enforcement officers do not have to be assaulted, stabbed, or shot. Under the laws of the state of Kansas, they have a right to defend themselves and defend others. And And that's what happened in this case, and that's why I made the findings I did. So, any other questions? Thank you very much for coming today.